Good evening and welcome to this May 28, 2025 Committee of the Whole meeting of the Village of Lake Bluff Board of Trustees. Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Ashalas.
Here.
Trustee Fisher. Trustee Freed.
Here.
Trustee Hatch. Trustee Hatch.
Here, sorry.
Trustee Reppin.
Here.
Trustee Ryder.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Next on our agenda are non-agenda items and visitors for public comment. The Committee of the Whole allocates 15 minutes during this item for those individuals who would like the opportunity to address the Committee of the Whole on any matter not listed on the agenda. Each person addressing the Committee of the Whole is asked to limit their comments to a maximum of 3 minutes. I do not see anybody in the boardroom today willing to address the board. Do we have anybody online, Drew?
If anybody is on the Zoom call and wishes to speak at this time, please raise your hand and you will be recognized now. It doesn't appear that they want to speak at this time.
And as I move forward with our general business, and that would be first, the Committee of the Whole will entertain requests from anyone present to modify the order of business to be conducted. Again, I do not see anybody present here, and the next item would be the consideration of the minutes from the May 12, 2025 Committee of the Whole meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion approved. Seconded.
Thank you. Do we have any changes about these minutes? I do not see any change. Thank you, Clerk. Please call the roll.
It's a voice vote.
It's a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you, and the motion carries. Next is our general business discussion. That is a discussion regarding Illinois Transportation Enhancement Program and Block 1 Streetscape update. Drew?
Just really quickly, the reason we're bringing this to you is we wanted to start the conversation sooner rather than later and talk about some options that you have still. If the village wants to go after the Block 1 work this year, calendar year, we would need to take action fairly quickly and get direction from you all to do so. And so we're going to talk about that. But really, it's a good news, bad news. The good news is we got a $3 million grant that works in conjunction with the $1.2 million that Senator Morrison got for the village, $1.2 million for the Lake Bluff, North Chicago pedestrian bridge and trail project. Mm-hmm. And so that should be enough funds to do the project. And so the village has engaged an engineering firm to start that work for us, doing design work for that. And with these funds, we'll be able to continue doing that and pressing towards that. You'll see related to this a couple of different agreements coming through, grant agreements, one with the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity for the 1.2, and then later with IDOT on the ITEP funds. So you'll see those in the near future. But the bad news part of this meeting is we had put in for Block 1. This is the second grant we pursued of significance to try to fund this project in one shape or another, and we're not successful. And so we wanted to, and this flowed from the village's recent budget adoption and the conversations we had at the Finance Committee too about the capital, the entire capital plan, and you all asked to see a breakout of this project. And so I was going to have Jeff walk everybody through, remind everybody what this project scope, at least fully scope, would look like. And then we can talk about maybe a la carte elements of this and how you can break certain elements out and kind of engineer it down a little bit if there are concerns financially. I will say high level, Bettina's on this call. We've had some conversations over the last week talking about, is this affordable? If the village said we want to do this and it's $1 million, can we still do it and maintain our policy goals? The answer is yes, you can do that. And not interfere with the immediate plans of the village's other capital projects. And why is that? It's expenses are tracking and revenues are coming in higher than anticipated. So that's not to say there's not competing priorities, but the idea is, yes, you can do it if you wish. So unless there's any questions for me, I will turn over to Jeff to walk through the project.
Yeah, and this project is one we've all seen, I think, a few times before, because it tracks with our approved CBD plan, which, would that go through in 2023, I think, or 2024? Basically, it's to make the street more flexible for multiple uses. They call it a curbless street, although it has on the north side, it is a curb, kind of like your driveway would be. So it's depressed, so you can walk without tripping or worrying about that. And the space then continues from the sidewalk into the street. You can see they're widening the sidewalk, making more pedestrian spaces, more spaces for outdoor dining, other uses. The grid of the sidewalk would match what we did in Block 2 on the north side of the street, and then that little bump out on the south side, in the southeast corner. Plantings, trees, everything kind of very similar look, benches to what was done on Block 2, which I think was very well received over there. Festoon lights in that corner, a seat wall, all the way up to Sheridan Road, replacing basically everything. And that streetscape from, was that in the 90s, Drew, or is it the 80s even? The Gamble one.
I think the original plan was actually adopted in the early 2000s,
Oh, okay, so it's that new,
but only implemented on this north side of the block,
2008, yeah.
which unfortunately did not
Yeah.
age well.
The sidewalks are all cracked, the blue stone is falling apart. So
And we pulled out the tumbled cobblestone bed demarkers because they were trip hazards.
Yeah, and there's still one of those left, just east of Hansa, which, so this plan's been around so long, it says B Market up there. So then, we have a couple of choices. One, if we don't want to do a project like this, we can redo the sidewalks as is out there and try to kind of Band-Aid what we have. Redo the pavement in the street, some curbs, kind of keep the design what it is. That's, I think I estimated that like $150,000 to $200,000 for that block. Another option is to fully implement this plan, which is estimated at $890,000. Of that, about 110 was for the festoon lights. That was an item that could possibly be taken out or just waited on, because those go in locations that could be added later. 70,000 of that is in furnishings, benches, chairs, other street furniture. And like I said, I don't have too much detail to go on. I think we've all kind of walked through this project many times in the past. But if we do want to do it this fall, we expected to hear from ITEP in March, and they didn't let us know till last week. So we're a couple months behind and just trying to plan construction for the fall. We would like to know if this needs to go or if we're going to hold off.
Could you go back to the earlier?
The bird's eye of the whole block.
Yeah. Just to confirm my understanding, we would lose those parallel parking spots, right, that are right along the zero entry pool or whatever.
So what is labeled flex lane? We were going to talk with our designer about that. I mean, that could be parking when it's not being used for other things. The way it's hashed right now makes it look like it. Nobody could ever park there, but
Yeah.
it is the same width as the parking stalls are now. So I think there's might be a smarter way to stripe that. We'll let you use it as parking and then close it off when we need to.
It looks like it's slightly narrower there than it is at the curb on the west side, or at the corner on the west side by the train station. So the road is somewhat narrower at that
Yeah,
end.
the sidewalk is coming out to make more pedestrian space and for multi-uses on the sidewalk. So right now you have, I think it's an 8 or a 9 foot parking lane. The center lanes that we mark as 11 on this are wider in the current configuration. That's mostly where we're taking from to give them more pedestrian space and wider sidewalks.
The other question I have is on the east side, go around the corner toward the yoga studio, is that still wide enough to be 2-lane? Or are we just going to do one direction the whole way? Now we have this weird, it's 2-way until it isn't. It goes one way at the end, or maybe, yeah. So do we anticipate keeping this a 2-way street on Walnut?
We are not trying to change the configuration of Walnut in that way.
It looks really narrow.
Yeah, it does on the picture. I think that is still the 11-foot lanes. I'd have to confirm the dimensions on that, but that was.
Two 11-foot
The
lanes.
intent was not to make it a one-way street the whole way, because I think the post office needs the trucks to come in and out, and there's some other circulation reasons to do it the way we have it now.
In this configuration, when we were dealing with COVID, we had authorized Rob Douglas to have basically those decks that would extend the sidewalk so that we have more space for people dining or drinking. Is this still a possibility here, or how does that work?
What we've done is we've made the sidewalk wider, so hopefully he wouldn't need to do that. I don't think he never actually pursued. We approved it, they never actually did it. That 8-foot flex lane could be cordoned off, like for any use, including dining. But I think part of the point of what we're doing here is to add more sidewalks, so there's more room for tables and things in that spot. So maybe there wouldn't be a need to go out into the street.
Got it.
Does this show the difference in the sidewalk width as well? Trying to see.
Yeah, it shows it at 18.
And then this goes to 20.
26'2", so we're adding 8 feet.
So the tent in that picture, is that illustrating an event, or would there be the possibility of more shade in that 26 feet? I thought it was 18.
18 is the existing, I believe.
Okay, so would there be the ability to put up, is that tent just for illustration? I mean,
Yes.
the idea is shade, right?
Yes.
You just need some shade.
Ideally, the trees would provide that eventually, right? But in the beginning, there would be periods where that wouldn't be.
So,
Possible.
Drew, do you have a sense, during COVID, everybody was outside in that area. This entire block was used. There were tents out. It was very active. Does Lake Bluff Brewing, Mavery, B Market, the demand for this level of seating, does that feel appropriate based on your knowledge?
There is the expectation from these businesses that they'll be treated equally with the other Block 2 improvements. That's what they've said for the longest time. I didn't reach out to them to say, we're having a conversation tonight, but that historically they've said, you're going to improve this, the village is going to improve this to the same level, right? That's the expectation. I said, a design has been approved. I shared this with them. They said, that's great. So.
Yeah, but in terms of the actual demand, do you know, are those tables being used all summer long? Is adding another 50 or 75%?
I think it's really, it's what you would expect. It's weather driven, right? When the weather's nice, people are out.
Yeah. Okay.
I've had maybe 2 residents still to this day asking the village to go back and do what we did in COVID. People still ask for that occasionally and say, hey, that was fantastic. Can we recreate that still?
But wasn't it, didn't that come up previously where we were gonna make space for those tables and the actual restaurateurs didn't like that because of the liability with the wait staff having to run out and about into the traffic, that was.
That was one of the criticisms of having it on the park side. Yes.
But having those decks on the zebra, the flex lane, would have solved that issue. Now we authorized it, and even though they had bought the wood to create that, they never moved on it.
Question. Did the Business Advisory Commission or these business owners weigh into these plans at all? Did they give feedback on what we're looking at?
They did. They did.
Positive, negative?
Positive. Okay. Yeah, again, the desire was, we want this, and we expect it to happen sooner rather than later.
I have a question for Jeff. Page 7, when I look at the vehicles, is this curbless? Because here it shows a curb next to the truck. It shows that there is a difference. Are we making curbless or a flat surface or curb full?
So there is a section where it's almost flat. Like I said, there still is a little channel to make the water flow. and you see where the flex lane is, where that text is, you can kind of see where it goes from that shaded dark gray to the regular curb, where adjacent to the landscaping in the green space, that would be a curb. But then this section right here that Drew's highlighting would be the quote-unquote curbless street.
Could there be extra seating in that flex area if we allowed it?
There could be anything, except that there will be traffic coming through, so
Yeah,
I don't know what kind
okay.
of barrier would be appropriate to make people feel safe while they're.
Yeah, these circles are the large planters that would be, kind of serve as a barrier. They're extremely large, and that's what the intent of those are, but it allows for peds to pass through there without trip hazards, so to speak.
And how tight is an 11-foot through lane? I mean, right now, it's really wide, and the parking's really wide, and there's a lot of concrete on that street. But is that still functional at 11?
Oh, yeah, I think that is a little more than we have in Block 2.
Okay.
Block 2 is always tight. If there's a truck parked in those diagonal stalls and hanging out, then it is tight.
Traffic
but that
calm.
is, yeah. 12 foot would be standard for like a highway. So 11 for a low-speed street is appropriate.
I have a question for you also following last weekend events in Liverpool, in the UK. I mean, here we are creating a party space, block parties or people during the weekend. So I think about a year ago or 2 years ago, we had spoken about large planters that would be moved when we want to block out the street. Do you guys have a plan for that?
Large planters are heavy planters, so those are hard for our guys, and I think those precast concrete ones aren't always meant to be lifted while they're full.
Okay.
We do have, I think, Drew, we still have the temporary barriers that we fill with water.
Those are so pretty.
We have other things that we could do to,
I will tell you that Police Chief Smazinski and I have looked at other, I'll call them pylons, what we call this, Jeff, that
the bollards.
the bollards that would be, you see sometimes at special events where they're moved around and they're temporary, you can bring them out and set them up for weekend events and so forth. That would be something we would probably do for the 4th of July or the bike race, something that's set up all day. Usually we've kind of, or we have taught our merchants how to do block parties, and they set it up themselves. I mean, that's part of the what we've done. I think that it's probably one of the miracles of the North Shore or any local government is that we let our merchants set it up, and we drop out the barricades and the cans, and they set up and clean up, and we follow back. And it's been working extremely well for over a decade. So but that's something like if we're going to do something more substantive to be more of a barrier, then that would change the way we've been doing things. Doesn't mean it can happen, but there's no electronic like bollards that pop up when we push a button or anything, which there are in certain airports.
They're just
Yeah.
really expensive, and they don't do well in salt environments when they go down.
This is actually the kind of about this big and about that high that comes out in pedestrian areas in France, for example. And they open it whenever you have if you're a reverend or, a person having business there and so on.
Yeah. There's a lot of those around Washington, D.C. If you go down there, they can pop up.
Yeah.
But the scope of this project does not include
Yeah.
that.
Well, if I were to put money to the side for the moment, this design helps in a couple of areas for me. One is safety. It's more narrow, easier for kids to get back and forth in a short distance. Not having that curb there, certainly great for block parties. It's it's a better design. The other part is the activation of Block 1. Block 2 looks pretty cool now. There's probably almost 25 tables. There's a lot of action, plus the alley, which we can't see. This creates critical mass in 2 different parts of our village, a block apart. And I think it's good for business. I think it's good for the vibrancy of our downtown community. It would be great for events. So money aside, I see some real positives in terms of the role this can be in a very central part of our community.
I agree with Steve. I just do have some concerns about the traffic actually on Scranton. But if you're saying it's the same as Block 2, I guess it's not that big of a concern. Just with all the activity, if we're gonna have people, children running across, now that it'll be a little bit closer. That's all.
Can we, is it, if it's all right, can we go through the other element of this, is that that's kind of got lost in the shuffle, but there was this element of the dancer statue relocation that there used to be in front of Innovasi. If some of you remember, there was a landscape bed that had a dance sculpture that was gifted to the village by the Garden Club. It's been sitting in storage. The Garden Club has been working with the village and the SEC to try to find a new place to put it, and working with the sculpture artist, said this is the right location, just at the south side of the train station in that area.
That'd be pretty.
That looks like this right now. It's kind of a low-level.
I'm sorry, where is that, Drew?
This is at the south side of the metro station.
So right where you pull in the drive?
So this is the area, this you walk through, there's a covered canopy here, there's bike racks down here. This area here is where the old Northern Trust ATM is.
I'm having a hard time picturing it. Where do you
So
drive into the plane?
the main entrance is up
Right,
here.
like when you come in.
Excuse me.
Give me 1 second, I will.
Is that used for anything right now? Is it just grass?
It's landscape here. I'm gonna give you one different shot. I don't know why this is not, oh, I know why now. All right, so there's the train station. So this is the area right here we're talking about.
Sure,
I think that's really pretty.
Right
sure,
here.
right there. Thank you.
Sorry for not orienting everybody.
You got it?
But this is the idea, and this is Tesca worked with the Garden Club and the sculpture artists, and this is their vision for it. The Garden Club is willing to donate for one of the benches, maybe more. But this, I think the last time it was, the price estimate was about $37,000. So we talked about it would make sense because it's pulling from all the same elements, both concrete, hardware for the benches, everything's all the same as the streetscape. If we do it, it would make sense to do it at the same time if the village was doing
Yeah,
that.
we would get much better prices on this
Yeah.
together with a much larger project than on its own.
That makes sense.
And you have like, are they gonna revamp the landscaping then too, it looked like? Around the,
Yeah, similar
Oh,
plantings.
yeah,
yes.
it had like lots of
Yes.
flowers.
Yes,
Okay.
from the same palette of materials, native landscaping, colorful. Yep. It has the Garden Club and the SEC's blessing.
So I want to ask some financial questions, but I want to make sure everybody else has gotten out their comments before I do.
Do we have comments from Shana, Taryn, and Rafi?
I don't know what's already been asked, and I feel like I've heard some answers to questions I already had, so I'll keep quiet for now.
I have no questions.
No questions.
Thank you. So let's move on to the financial side.
Great. So, Jeff, let me ask, the entire project here, how much is the work that has to be done no matter what?
To implement this base design or just
No,
to?
we had to replace sidewalks. There's a certain amount of work that has to be done in the fall, regardless of whether we approve something bigger.
It would not have to be done in the fall, but to replace the cracked sidewalks as they are, address the failing bluestone and repave the street. I figured 150 to 200,000.
150 to 200,000?
Yeah.
And how urgent is that?
Probably next.
Well, it depends. I mean, it doesn't look good now. It needs to be done. All that's going to happen is the unit costs are going to go up with inflation the longer we wait. But the sidewalks are cracked, but they're not trip hazards right now. It's just not an attractive block, and we've been
Is
kind
fall
of.
even feasible for that work, or really it's a next year thing no matter what?
If it was just the redo what's there now, I would need a little more detailed. We want to redo the sidewalks in that exposed way. Are we ripping them all out? But it's getting tight on schedule. We have the plans mostly done from our grant application for this design, so that is easier just to put out on the street and get bids for in the next month.
Okay. And then to do the work as we see it here, with and without the festoon lighting, how much would that be?
That we estimated at about 890,000. Like I said, 110 was for the festoons, and like 70 was for the benches and other furnishings. So the hardscape puts you right about 700,000 just to do this.
Including the
design.
150 to 200 that we were talking about. That's included in that 700.
Yeah, including resurfacing.
So it's
the
about an
asphalt
extra
and
$500,000 if you don't do the festoon lighting, is what it sounds like.
Extra $500,000 if we
You
go to
have-
this design from the old design, from the existing. I think you said festoon, but the festoons I said are 110 on their own.
One portion, yeah.
Yeah, but when you take that out, if you don't do the festoon lighting, then it sounds to me like it's 150 to 200 to do the sidewalk and the bluestone, and then another 500 if you do all the other work except for the festoon lighting.
Clarify, it's about 150 to 200 to keep the existing design and like Band-Aid it.
Yeah.
To maintain what we have. is-
Same geometry we have now, not the wider sidewalk, not the curbless street. That's kind of a standalone, just fix it up the best we can with this geometry that is there today. It would be about 700,000 to install this geometry with the new sidewalks, the curbless street, the seat walls in there, the landscaping, and then the last 180 would be to do the festoons and the furnishings.
So what we're saying is, old design fixed 200, new design, above and beyond the old design fixed is plus 500,000. So my question to Drew is, you started this meeting by saying that you found money.
Well, I think it's the simplest way to say it is that the revenues are coming in higher. I mean, that's typically how we budget here in most organizations. You underestimate revenues, overestimate expenses. And that is, the expenses are hitting on the mark and revenues are higher. My conversation with Bettina, and she's on telephonically here, or I should say virtually. Hi, Bettina.
Aye.
Stop me if I'm wrong, Bettina, but the idea that revenues, mostly sales tax, are performing better than expected. And we don't have the actual audited statements yet. We won't have those till August about where they actually fell, but our best estimates, how much the margin you think we're better off, Bettina?
The margin that we're better off, I mean, I estimated, I don't know if you want to show that chart, Drew, but it gives a nice visual, but so we have general fund expenditures, the capital fund projects that were budgeted as it stands, and then the capital fund contributions from general that we talked about and have included in the existing budgets, and then the fund balance line on that chart. It does show that by, fiscal year 31, which is a fluid estimate, that we'd be down into the 40% funded ratio when 50 is our goal. That could change, based on revenue changes and, general fund expenditures. But on the closer side, fiscal year 25, 26, 27, we can estimate those a lot easier. And those capital contributions were part of the existing budgets that we already, reviewed at finance committee level and board level. So I never included grant money for this project. I let it ride the way it was, and if grant money came in, that would have been great.
Bettina, and thank you for that, but is there a clean way to say that our budget is exceeding on revenues and maintaining on expenses? And if we were just to isolate this fiscal year, which ends in June?
May.
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 Is there a dollar amount that we are saving that is currently unallocated and will just fall into the future general fund and capital fund? And our choice is either put that in and save it for another day or to spend it on this. And does that equal an extra $500,000?
So I can't give you an exact, I can't give you a dollar amount as to what that funded ratio percentage equals, but I can tell you that the expenses are at about 11 million, capital fund projects are at 2.9, and that we're still transferring 650,000 of the capital fund, leaving us well over the funded number that we need to be at. And last year we were at 93% funded. It's just gone up because of the timing of the projects and the revenue stream that we've received. So we could, increase the capital contribution, but I don't really think it's needed based on what we've outlined here in this chart.
Bettina,
If that answers your question.
yeah, I'm going to take one last shot, and if it just doesn't make sense, don't do it. But we have
Sure.
a budget for revenues and expenses and kind of an NOI, which is money we move into the general fund. How is actuals comparing to budget for revenues minus expenses?
So actuals to budget expenditures are coming in as expected. I mean, you can see that on on the monthly report that I provided for April. They're right on target, and revenues are about 300,000 to 400,000 in the general fund, greater than expected.
Okay, thank you.
But for fund balance numbers, you're looking at operating and not the total budget, and that's where the fund balance numbers come from. So operating is a different portion of the general fund.
And so Regis, what were you hoping to get out of today's discussion?
Well, well, from an intent standpoint, it looks like we are aligned to that this design makes sense going forward from what I get. I mean, you guys could contradict me on that, but from a general sense of community, people want it, people expect it. From a business community, from the business advisory board, they expect it. From the business community, people are expecting it. Now let's get reasonable. From a financial standpoint, we either spend 200 or 700. That's basically what we're saying. What Bettina says is we probably are 400,000 above, $300,000 to $400,000 above below expenses. So we basically have a cushion of about $300 to $400. That means that if we were to do that business at 700, we would be basically, it would work out from a financial standpoint. That's basically what I'm getting. But everything is approximate. Nothing is serious from a serious, solid figure. But that's basically what I am getting.
Can I answer, is it all right if I try to answer? I think what staff's goal and what Jeff was talking about earlier is if there's a desire to do this project this calendar year, then we would need to know very soon, maybe that the next meeting, did you want us to go out to the market and see what the bids are for this and decide maybe then, but is to get that direction now. Alternatively, you can wait till spring to do it when we'll have better information in the fall about how much money is specifically available when we get the audited statements that will say this is specifically a much more specific number. I think we were looking for, I guess staff is looking for, is there comfort with the plan still? And it sounds, at least I haven't heard anything contrary to this is the right plan. So I think that's the right plan. And the question is when and timing and how it's going to be paid for. And we've gone to the well a number of times for grants. We don't think, frankly, the way grants are the algebra and the weight on the various variables don't favor Lake Bluff. Just the way things are, at least from most of the sources that we've seen, and we don't think we're going to be successful in pursuing this And based off our most recent ITEP score, and it just doesn't.
Having the park on one side and only businesses on the other side of the road, the economic development calculations they do come up short, basically, because we only have economic development on one side. So other projects seem to score better in that way. And then there are some community-based scores based on incomes that we don't score well, and it's kind of pushed us down.
So, yeah, we don't think, I mean, we can keep pursuing grants and maybe we get lucky. We just don't think it's going to work out.
Yeah.
So,
from a direction to Drew and staff, we need to provide guidance now. But basically, the choices are, we either say we'll repair 200, or we will go for potentially 700,000. But we need and the direction to staff at this point would be, okay, go and be more specific, get an estimate of the work right now that will be very specific. And we probably also need to get from Bettina a better number for about $300,000 to $400,000. That would be the thing. So I will ask you what you guys think for building a consensus. Rafi, Taryn, Shayna.
Spent a lot of time on this. I think we've been very fiscally responsible in our discussions about it. There's far too little festoon lighting, in my opinion. It's a joke. You know, I feel confident in moving forward with it. That's where I'm at.
That's how I feel as well. I feel like we should move forward. We should get bids. And if we have to make some trimming off a few things here and there because it's more than we expected, then we could do that.
Okay.
I concur. I think it'll help our central business district, and we've got the money for it, seems like.
Seems like it, yes. Got.
Yeah, so long as Bettina, sorry, can come up with the funds, yeah, like if it's more specific. I like what Steve was asking, so it's good to know.
Yeah.
I recall when we ranked capital projects, this ranked pretty high because it has a very high community and social impact. We could put the money in the capital fund for a rainy day, but I think we've got it now, and this is a high priority, so I support it.
Yep.
So I will say that we already know what the rain is. We know that we have an underfunded police pension, and we know that we have millions of dollars to spend on sewer, stormwater. We know that with certainty. It's not maybe the rain will come. We know that with certainty. So I disagree, however. I just went over and looked at the sidewalks, and the sidewalks do need repair. And I think we should make at least some of these improvements, and we should go out and get bids on the plan. Because it sounds like we have a majority, whether I agree or disagree. But I am concerned that it isn't just if we have other places to spend money, it's when. And the fact that we don't have to spend it today doesn't mean that we don't know that we're going to have to spend it. So all that is by way of saying that I will, I see the need for the replacement of the sidewalks. I think the zero entry to the street is a good plan. And we should go ahead and get bids. But we shouldn't kid ourselves that we don't know that we need the money elsewhere.
Thank you. So it seems like we have a consensus. Direction to staff is to go and get bids, to get specific on the numbers. And we have Suzanne with, and I agree with you, by the way. And we have a chance to change our mind as we get closer to signing a check. If we don't have the money, if Bettina says, you know what, we might have a shortfall, or we're right on budget, we can still change our mind.
It sounds like you want me to strip out the festoons and
Can you put
kind
that
of
as
bare
a-
bones it as
can you
much
put
as we
that as an
can?
additional item and
Bid
don't have to
alternate.
commit to it?
The
specific on
festoon's
numbers.
inconsistent with Bird City. I know we put the little hats on it, but it is inconsistent with Bird City nonetheless. So I think we have enough.
I'm good with that, without festoon.
Okay.
Okay, no bid on Festoon. No bid on Festoon.
I'm fine with that. Totally, I've moved on. I've gotten over my obsession with twinkly lights, so.
I still have an obsession on Festoon, but that's fine.
It would be nice to have them balanced, but
They can always be added later.
We have the power there, yeah. They're in grass areas where the poles would go, so if you change your mind, we can add them.
Okay,
the one other thing I will say just about the design, and I don't want to nitpick this. You know, Block 2, or Block 1, once what Block 2 had, but this design has a much wider sidewalk. The 26 feet is a really wide sidewalk. I am concerned about losing that parking. I realize there's parking at the train station across the street, but the convenience of getting in there and getting out, I just wouldn't go all 26 feet, but I'm not the architect here. I feel like, you know, it's like, oh, Block 1 has this, so let's have Block 2, and now Block 2 has this, and Block 1 needs it. I mean, you know, where does that end? So 26 feet seems like an excessive, especially when we have the zero entry, excessive sidewalk to me, especially when we gave those restaurants the ability to have more seating, and they didn't take it for whatever reason. I just think more public space like we have on the other side of the street is very important to me. More broader sidewalks for the restaurants that happen to be there is not as important to me. And so 26 feet of sidewalk seems like more than we need, especially if it means we're losing parking. So enough of that. I'm down with spending the money. I just want us to be realistic that we've got other things to spend money on. But we're making a lot of money on our sales tax right now, and so we should have a town that looks as beautiful as we can make it.
thank you. So you have directions?
Yes, thank you.
Anything else on the board before we conclude? Nope. So I will take a motion to adjourn.
You adjourn.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And we're adjourned. Thank you. It is 6:59. Let's start at 7:10 on our
7:05.
7:05. 7:05. 7:05.
We can do that.
Thank you.
How are you?
Pretty good.